Hey guys, in this series Mariano5 and myself are going to discuss 10 very common leaks we've spotted over the thousands of combined hours we've played at the live cash games, along with what we can do to avoid them and immediately increase our win rate.
Yeah, that's right, and we're also excited to announce that we have an entire Raise Your Edge course coming out in early 2019, which is focused solely on crushing the live games. In the course, we'll be expanding on all the concepts in the series, plus everything else you'll need to be successful at the live felt. But for now, let's get into the leaks.
Here we have leak number 2. So let's start with the theory part from this video. At first, the sentence "I call turn so I have to call river" is just wrong, and I will show you why. Just think about the first point. The river card will often change the range advantage and composition, so when you think the bluffing range from your opponent are a ton of flush draws and not too many other bluffs, and the river completes the flush, this should change something in your decision, right? Because you always play against a range of hands, and when you think too many of his draws improved, you need to fold more hands to his river bet. We have a lot of hands that are good enough to call 2 streets against his betting range, but never 3 streets. And our range is well constructed, so we have enough stronger hands in our range that can call down 3 streets. In most live games, people are not overly aggressive, so even if you overfold on the river, you won't get exploited. But the most important fact is that we have a lot of hands in our range that can call those 3 bullets, so flop, turn, and river bet. And with that call turn, then call river logic, it's possible to exploit yourself when your opponent has a super small bluffing range on the river, cause then you lose way more than you should. Because usually you want to fold some hands on every street, on the flop, on the turn, and on the river. When your range is well constructed, no one will be able to exploit you easily. When you play against a weaker live player, you will realize that they often bluff with 2 bullets, so they bet flop and bet turn with their bluffs, but they can't pull the trigger on the river. And that's the reason why their range on the river is value heavier. And for them it makes sense. When they have equity, like a straight draw or flush draw, they still can make the best hand. But on the river, there's no card left, and they are unsure if we fold often enough, and that's why they just give up if they don't improve. Okay, so now we can have a look at a few example hands here to help illustrate the leak. Okay, let's start with our first example hand. As you can see, we have pocket jacks and under the gun, and of course we raise it up to 12 bucks. And as we can see, the tight ABC rack goes ahead and 3 bets from the cutoff. And I think in our position we have only one option, and this option is to call, cause 4 betting is too loose, cause in general 3 betting ranges against under the gun are fairly tight, so we only isolate ourselves against a stronger range like queens, kings, aces. And yeah, folding is definitely way too weak because our opponent usually has a bluffing range, and therefore calling is the only option. Board is pretty good for our hand, so we go ahead and check, as we always do, and our opponent bets 40. And again, I don't think we have a ton of options here. If we decide to check raise, we probably overplay our hand a little bit. Folding is too weak. Our opponent will not always have queens, kings, aces. He's definitely capable of bluffing here, and that's why we need to call the flop. So we go ahead and call the 40. Turn is another 3, shouldn't change too much. So yeah, he has some backdoor flush draws. He has some hands like a3 suited maybe. We check, he goes ahead and bets again. We still beat all his bluffs, so yeah, standard check call on the turn. Our hand is definitely way too strong to fold it on the turn. Yeah, river is a deuce, we check, and our opponent rips it. And the question is if we can bluff catch here or not. So what should we do to determine if we should call or fold in a situation like this. So at first, look at your opponent. Here we see it's a tight ABC rack. So he is not 3-betting loose against under the gun when he's a tight ABC rack. Probably like queens, kings, aces, and some bluffs, like some suited connectors, some suited aces, like ace deuce suited to ace 5 suited, something like that. Then we need to think about the action in the hand, and yeah, he looks fairly strong because he bet flop, he bet turn, and now he jams river. And as we can see, we need to call a fairly hefty bet on the river, 365 into 404. So we need about, we get odds of 1.78 to 1, so around 32% equity. So let's start constructing a range against our opponent. I think this is the easiest way. So we have jack and hearts, jack of clubs, and the board is 7 hearts, 3 diamonds, 6 clubs, 3 clubs. Oh. And 2 of hearts. And now we just think about our opponent's range. So as I told you, we need roughly 33% equity on the river. So if we really give him 18 value combinations, we need to find 9 bluff combinations. And we definitely see some problems over here, because if we give him some suited aces, it's also possible that he has a 3 sometimes, like ace 3 suited, and this is not a bluff anymore. But we should keep it simple. So I think he can definitely have a hand like ace king and ace queen in clubs, because I think with those hands he's probably going to c-bet on a board texture like this with his whole range, and this also includes those hands, but of course only when he has clubs. So one combination of ace king suited and one ace queen suited combo. And as we see, the board is 7-6, 3-3 deuce. So I think it is possible that he sometimes bluffs through his pre-flop with some suited connectors like 9-8 suited. So he flops the open ender, bets turn on the river. He has absolutely no showdown value and goes for it. So 9-8 in spades. What else possible? Yeah, maybe the suited aces, as I told you. So ace 5, ace 4. Ace deuce probably not, because he has some showdown value, and if you include ace 3, that's not good for for us, because then he has trips, and obviously trips beat jacks. So let's give him just those combos. But even then, as you see, right, we need to find 9 bluff combinations. We have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So as you can see, we have not the needed equity to call. But even here, I think it's super ambitious that he's always going for it with ace king suited and ace queen suited, because he has some showdown value. With those hands he still beats some draws. Also that he's triple barreling with 9-8 suited if he's a tight ABC rack, and all the suited aces with backdoor flush draws. But as you can see, even then it's not possible. And of course, if we include ace 3 suited in this calculation, we definitely need to fold our hand. And as you can see, it doesn't really matter how you construct the range against a tight ABC rack, this hand will always be a fold, even if we give him all the bluff combinations. And usually I think most players just 3-bet not that loose against under the gun, and even if they do, they're probably not bluffing all those hands on the river. Occasionally they bluff, but in reality they maybe have 50% bluffs or something like this, and with the other hands they're just going to showdown, and they will realize that they lose pretty much always, but they don't really care. And as you saw, there's nothing you can do. You just need to fold jacks on the river in this situation. As you know, we get 3-bet in under the gun against cutoff. His range is too strong on the river. He has not enough bluffs, and as you see, this is a hand where we should always call turn, but we need to fold river because he has not enough bluffs in his betting range. Okay, let's continue with our second example hand. Here we have a beautiful hand in the big blind. Jack 10 suited, ABC semi-rec opens to 10, and the ABC rec flats, and in the big blind there's nothing we can do, we can only flat, that's what we do. So we call, and flop is 10-7 deuce rainbow, so pretty good for our hand. ABC semi-rec checks, ABC rec bets. Again, a little bit too weak to check raise, too good to fold, so only one option, we call. We check again on the turn, and our opponent fires again. So now we can definitely remove some super weak hands from our opponent. Our opponent is a regular, so he probably knows that he should not bet a super weak 10 or 7 or pocket 8s or pocket 9s on the turn, and not super weak bluffs that he's sometimes betting on the flop, like Jack 9 or something like this, without hearts. So his turn betting range is definitely way stronger, but he still has some bluffs in his range, that's for sure. He can definitely have 8-9 suited, maybe some overcards with hearts now, where he stepped the flop with. And against all those hands, we are obviously a huge favorite, and we just lose to hands like King 10, Ace 10, deuces, 7s, maybe even 10s. I think this is possible, and yeah, that's probably about it. So we go ahead and call on the turn, and the river is a fairly bad card. We check, and our opponent bets 150. And again, you have a tough decision here with Jack 10 of clubs. Should we call? Should we fold? What would you do in a situation like this? And again, he bets fairly big. He bets 150 into 171, so nearly pot size. And you just need to find bluffs. Again, river is not a good card, cause 8-9 got there, and 8-9 suited is definitely in his flatting range pre-flop. And the question is always, do we find enough bluffs? As I told you on the turn, he can have 8-9, but this is now straight. He's not betting a 7 on the turn to bluff this hand on the river. So the only hands we beat are hands like Queen Jack and hearts, King Jack and hearts, maybe Ace Jack and hearts. But yeah, don't really think that he's betting flop with a hand like this. So as you see, it's really hard to find bluff combinations. We maybe find 2-3 bluff combinations, but the problem here is he has a lot of value combinations. He has all the 8-9, Ace 10, King 10, deuces, 7s, 10s hands in his range, and he's definitely value betting all those hands. And this means with our hand, we can, or we should, never call river against the ABC rec, cause he will never have enough bluffs in his river betting range. So again, perfect example where you can or you have to call turn cause it's super probable. He has enough bluffs in his range, but on the river he has not enough bluffs in his betting range, and that's why we need to give up on the river. And the solution to this problem is that we should base our decision on a lot of factors. The first factor is our opponent's range and how it interacts with the board. So from which position has he opened and how many value hands and bluffs are possible with his range. Then our opponent's actions throughout the hand. Did he bet the flop and the turn and now he bets river? Or has he check raise flop, bet turn and is now betting river? Cause this is a different scenario. So please really try to give him on every street a realistic range. So pre-flop, on the flop, the turn and on the river when he's betting. And you need to include your opponent's tendencies in your decision. So ask yourself, is my opponent a maniac? Does he like to barrel? Or is he a huge nit and he is only barreling a super small range? Or is he a calling station? And so on. The next important point is bet sizing. So how large does he bet? Do we get a fairly good price on the river or a super bad price? Is he often enough bluffing with his pot size bet on the river or not? And of course, you need to ask yourself, where are we in our range? So how many better hands do we have? Do we overfold if we fold this hand on the river or not. But also metagame factors are very important in live cash. Is our opponent a regular but he is on tilt cause he dropped 5 stacks in 30 minutes? This can change anything. So please always include those metagame factors in your decision. And as you can see, if you ask all those questions in-game, you should have a pretty good idea what you should do with your actual hand on the river. I hope you understand now that we should never use the I called on the turn, so I have to call river logic. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and this was Fallout 86 for Raise Your Edge, and good luck at the tables.